Hey, this is Jacob from VBA Workflow Automation, and let's get started on creating your first user form in Excel. So my menu up here is Danish, but you just go to Udvikler, which is the developer tab. You tap on that and go to Visual Basic or Alt F11, and then you insert a user form here. And we're going to stretch it out a little bit. First, we can name it what we want. So let's call this data entry. So we change name here. And then we can also change the bar here. So for example, call it data entry. And let's start by changing the color here, just to make it different. For example, this color. Yeah. And then we can add some text box and some controls to make this user form enter the data correctly. And we have a sheet here. This is just an example with first name, last name, age, gender, country, occupation, employment type, if it's full-time or part-time. And then we have a sheet here with a list of drop-down menu we can attach to the user form, also called a combo box. And I'm going to show you that right now. So first, let me attach the labels here, just to give the user an idea of what they are filling in. So the first one we call first name, and let's change the color on the font right away to white so it stands out. Yeah. And then we can just copy paste this and call it last name. Yeah. So we have first name and last name. Then we're gonna have a text box here where the user can enter their first name and the last name. So we can set the height of the text box to, let's say, 20, and copy paste this. So this is for the first name and this is for the last name. And you can name it here so it's easier to program VBA. Yeah, create the user form, and basically, yeah, it makes the programming a lot easier. So I'm just calling this TB for text box, first name, and this one TB last name. Then we're gonna have the gender here. So now I have the first name and the last name. Now we need the gender here. And for that, I want to create a frame here. And this makes sense in a minute, where I also change the color of the font to white. And instead of calling this frame, you can call this gender, or frame gender, and the caption gender, and it changes up here immediately. And then what we'll need inside this frame is two option buttons. So this is something the user need to click on. Either it's male or it's female. Pretty straightforward. We're going to set it up more beautiful when everything is in the user form, because we can move it around here and also center it so it's more pretty. So for this, we call it option button male, and this we call opaque female. Yeah. So the next thing we need to write is for the age, and we're going to use a text box here again, and we set the height to the 20 again, and call this text box age. We can make this shorter. We're gonna need a combo box, and we're gonna find it here, combo box with the countries, and we're gonna set the height here again as 20, and then give it a name, combo box country. We're forgetting the labels here. So this was the age. And this was the country. Then we're gonna have the occupation here. We're gonna do this and copy it down here, so we don't have to change the color of the font. Occupation. Yeah, and for that we need a text box. We let the users enter what occupation they have. Text box occupation. Yes, and then the last thing we need here, you can see now we have all these, my first name, last name, age, gender, country, and occupation. Now we need the employment type, and that is whether it's full-time or part-time. And we're gonna make this simple. So we have the optional button that is either male or female. Now we're just gonna add a checkbox that says full-time or not. So for example here, we're gonna write full-time. So if they check this, it's gonna be a full-time position. If not, it's part-time. Then we just need to have two buttons to either cancel the user form or to save the data. So we have a command button here, is what it's called. And we're gonna write here cancel. So we're gonna write here the name command button cancel. And we're immediately gonna change the color here, change it to white again. We can actually also make the font a little bit bigger. So for example, instead of 8, then 10, and make it bold. Cancel. Easier to see. And then we have the save button here, and that's gonna save the data into the Excel sheet. Command button save here. Yeah. And we try to run this real quick. Yeah. There's something with the height. We need to adjust that. So now we have all the things in the user form. This is just very basic, and I'm gonna show you how to get data into the Excel sheet. First of all, let's create a module here, and we're just gonna call that open user form, open data form, and then we're just gonna write data entry dot show. That's how you open a user form. So we're referring to the name here on the user form. And then we can just make a bottom here. So for example, just this one. And you can choose this one, for example, and write open form. You can play around with this, whatever fits your style and what you like. It's not that important. You have your own style, how you're gonna make these things. This could be a way to do it. Maybe a little bit bigger. Yeah. And then we're gonna attach it. This is attaching a macro to the user form, and we're gonna click on open data form and attach that. So now we'll open the user form up, but it's not ready yet. I'm gonna show you how to fill in this so we can get data into this Excel sheet, and it's very, very simple. So I discovered here that we haven't named our checkbox, so I'm gonna name it checkbox full time. All right. Now every control in the user form is named correctly, and it makes it more simple to code now. Let me show you. First thing I want to change is the text box of age, because we only want to allow numbers to be entered, numbers and backspace. So it wouldn't make sense to write letters or symbols, dots, commas, and so on when we are talking about age. So this is a control to make sure we get the right data. So we double tap here. We're gonna change this to key press. So this is what the user are allowed to enter. And I'll just copy paste this code in here. And it basically is just, if not keys as cell is equal or smaller than 48 and this to 57 and the key press 8, then it should not allow it. So basically this is the numbers from 0 to 9 that they are allowed, and this should be the backspace. So they only accept numbers and backspace. We can test it out here in our user form. I'm typing letters, nothing happens. Now I'm typing numbers, and you can see you can also delete here. I mean, you could set also to only accept 2 digital, so you cannot like write this, but we're not gonna look at that today. This is just to ensure numbers. The next thing I want to change is the combo box. Right now we don't have any data in the combo box, but we have the data here from the list. And the good thing about a combo box, if we set it correctly, we can add items here. So the list goes on, and every time there's a new value in the list, it doesn't stop with Italy, but continues until there's no more values. So I'm gonna show you that now. So let's press Alt F11. And then we double tap on the user form here, like this. And then we enter the user form. But we have to change here to initialize. And then we're down here, ready to writing the code. We're gonna set the raw source on the combo box, which is where the combo box gets its data. And I'm gonna show you how you're gonna create that dynamic, as I mentioned before. So if you have more items, more values on the list in the sheet, then the user form updates the combo box. So we're gonna dim the last row as long, and then we're gonna set last row equal sheets, and it's the list cells rows, dot count, comma, and then it's in the column A. Dot end Excel up dot row. That's how we find the last row in column A. And then we're gonna set me combo box country. I'm gonna set the raw source. The raw source equals list A2 to A and the last row we just defined above. And then we need to have the dollar signs before the A and before the 2 and around the A, which lock it to the column and the rows we've decided. And now we're ready to test it out. Let's open this user form and run it here. And then we can see Denmark, Germany, England, France, Italy. But let's say, just for fun, that we are gonna type in another value, Sweden, for example. Then the user form should update the combo box. So let's check if it does that. Let's run it here. And now you see it had added Sweden in the bottom. So it always looks for all the values in the raw source we have defined. So we might as well set the position where on the screen it pops up. I like user forms to pop up in the center, and also set how big the user form should be, how tall and how broad. And I'm going to show you this right now. So we double tap here on the user form again, and then we're going to write it here on the user form initialize. We're going to dim center X as long and dim center Y as long. Then we're going to set center X equal application dot left plus parentheses 0.5 multiplied by application dot width. And then we're gonna retract it with 0.5 multiplied by me width. And then we're gonna write center Y equals application dot top plus 0.5 multiplied by application dot height. And that we're gonna retract with 0.5 multiplied by me height. And then we're gonna set me top equals center Y and me left equal center X. And then we will have positioned it in the middle of the screen. Let's set the height and the width also at the same time. So we're going to do that by writing me width, and we're going to set that to 300, and me dot height, we're going to set that to 360. That's it. So now we set the user form size and the position of the screen. Let's test it out. So double tap here and run is positioned in the middle, and I like how tall and broad it is. So this is a way to control the size of the user form, no matter what screen you're watching on, and that it's positioned right in the middle, if that's what you prefer. So we can see that we set it up like the first name is column A, last name B, the gender we put in the D, and the age is in the C, and the country we have in E. And if they check this box, make the user form right full time here. If this checkbox is not checked, we make it right part time. Very, very simple. So let's get started. We do that by clicking here on the save button. The first thing we're gonna do is to dim worksheet as just WS, just to shorten it. Then we dim last row as long, and then we're gonna set the worksheet equal this workbook sheet's name, data. This workbook dot sheets and then we're gonna find the last row again, and we can just copy it down from this one, but not from the list sheet, from the data sheet. So now it's gonna look for the last row in column A. When we're gonna write the data here from the different forms, different controls inside the user form, we're gonna write it here. Okay, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna write the data into the sheets here from the text box. We're gonna take first name, last name, and the age first, and that's column 1, 2, and 3. So we're gonna write here worksheets, cells, and then we have a last row +1 to add it on the available cell after last row, and that is in column 1 dot value, and we're gonna write text box first name value, and we copy paste this. The next is the last name we have, and that's gonna be written in column 2 and last name. This is here how you structure the controls inside of the user form. Gets handy, and you can code this very simple by having the right names here. So the third column was the age, wasn't it? Yes. That's column 3, and that's the age. So far so good. We have the optional button here, whether they click on male or female, they should write that in the way we're gonna do that is simple. We're gonna write if optional button male value, then it should write in the fourth column here. We're gonna change that to male. It will write male if the option button. Else, if optional button female value, then it should write female in the same column. And then we're gonna do an end if. So we close this if and else if. Okay, let's write a big F here for female, just so it fits the other optional button. Then we're gonna do this one. So this is the 5th column, and what we're gonna do in the 5th column, country. So that's not a text box, that's the combo box, and that's country. So in the 5th column, it writes the country. And in the 6th column, it writes the occupation, and that's the text box. Let's take this one. 6th column is the text box occupation. Occupation. Yeah. The last part with the full-time checkbox, we're going to write that in column 7. So we're just going to copy paste this. Write 7 here. And then we're going to do a if parentheses combo box full-time value. Then it should write full-time. Else you should write part-time. Let's have a look and test it out, how far we are in this. It's always good to test it out when you're building it, because you're gonna discover some mistakes along the way that needed to be corrected. And you only need to correct it once. When you have a good use form, a data entry use form that works, it will always work. Let's say here, first name here, Jacob, male, 35, I'm from Denmark, occupation controller, and that's full-time, save. You see here, it writes all the data here. So what we need here is every time we push this button, it should also clear all the controls so it's ready to enter a new. And when we're done with this, we can just close the user form here. Let's do that right now. Alt F11. And what we simply need is to clear the controls after writing data in the sheet. So we're just going to set all the controls in the user form to nothing. Text box, first name, value, blank. Text box, last name, value, blank. Then we have text box, age, value, blank. And then we have the 2 optional buttons. And then we have to make them false. So the first one is optional button male, and that value we set equals false, and the same female value equals false. And the last 2 one, a text box occupation value equal blank, and checkbox full-time equal false as well. So let's test it out. Just entering a random James Bond. He's a male. He's maybe 50. He's from the UK, England. Occupation, agent, and it's full-time. Just let's, for fun, say it's part-time, so we don't check this. Save, and it writes part-time here, and it also clears all the controls except the country. So we forgot about that. Let's just fix that. Go back into our user form. Combo box country value equals blank. Sarah Nielsen, she's female, 25, yeah, from Denmark, occupation manager, full-time manager, Sarah Nielsen, female, 25. So you see, it works now. But what we haven't fixed, this is the last part. Let's say the user writes Heinrich here, German name. I don't even know if it's spelled correct, but you get the idea. He's a male, and the user forgets to write the last name, for example. He is 42, he's from Germany, and his occupation is bus driver. full-time. Then it still writes the data without the last name. We don't want that. We want it to pop up as you forget to enter all the fields. The only exception should be this full-time checkbox, because this is full-time, part-time. So that should be the only thing that the user can leave out without filling in. The way we're going to do that is very simple. I'm going to show you here. Let's delete this. And we're going to go back to the user form. We're going to add it here, and we're going to insert the code here that doesn't allow the user to the data without filling in all the information. And the way we do that is if, and then we're going to trim it here, text box first name value equals blank, or trim text box last name value equals blank here, or trim. So basically all the controls we're going to write here, value, if that's also equals blank, or the next one is text box occupation value equals blank. Then like this, then it should write a message box, something like, please fill in all required fields, something like that. And then we're gonna write a VBA exclamation to make it stand more out. Yeah. But if all the fields are entered correctly, you should just exit the sub. And then we're gonna do an end if. Now we're gonna test it out to see if it works. We're gonna open the form again. Let's say you are a Martin Jensen, male, but then we forget to enter the age. He's from Denmark, and his occupation could be teacher, and it's full-time. Exclamation mark. Please fill in all required fields. So it doesn't allow you to enter these data when this is empty. If you just write 32 here, and then I forgot to write his occupation, come up with this message box. This we can leave blank because it's not necessary to click this. So it will still write the data here, just as part-time. And when the user is done, they can close the use form, and this is a way to control data, to get the right data into your Excel sheets. These user forms are very powerful, customized, very easy, and it's a good way to get the right data in if you have a lot of employees or coworkers that need to use to get the right data in, so you can use the data for analysis purposes or something like that.